Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video and myself, Jonathan MS Pitts. Ukraine War News Update, second part thereof for the 4th of August 2024. Sorry it's a little bit later than normal. We're going to start the news in the military aid segment with the first 10 of an eventual 79 F-16s have arrived in Ukraine on the last day of July 2024. So that's actually 4 or 5 days ago. There were rumours that 6 had arrived. Actually, it appears that 10 F-16s are in Ukraine or flying over Ukrainian skies. I don't know where they are based. It could be that they are in Romania and flying over Ukraine. Who knows? By the end of 2024, Ukraine is expected to have 20 of these American-made jets in operation. The remaining jets promised by the F-16 coalition led by Denmark and the Netherlands will be delivered in batches throughout 2025. So that's pretty good news. 20 by the end of 2024, sorry. They'll be using them carefully at the beginning, and I presume getting them bedded in and using them more and more I guess in forward positions or closer to the contact line. I don't know how long. The assumption is they're going to be started to be used as air defense aircraft, so taking out cruise missiles and drones and whatnot, getting used to operating, getting logistics sorted. I don't know what air bases they'll be operating from. As mentioned, there are only a few that they can be used from in Ukraine, given the needs for the F-16 in terms of the runways need to be clear of foreign object debris. There need to be particular runways, and logistics is quite compared to say the Gripen, it's just more difficult to fly, and they require more input from maintenance crews and whatnot. They're very widespread aircraft that are being used by an awful lot of people, and they've got a good logistics chain, I guess. But the Gripen would be easier, just not as many people use them, so they weren't the first choice for the Ukrainians. But it means that there are only several places you can use them from in Ukraine, and they will be very carefully monitored by the Russians, and they'll be looking to take those air bases out. I presume there'll be air bases further to the west. They're not going to be using them from, say, Dnipro or Dnipropetrovsk or, I don't know, Mykolaiv, for example, too close to the front line. But 10 is better than the 6, right? So 10 of them available to be used right now, and then a further 10 to come before the end of the year. I guess that's good news. It's slightly better than it was. Just be interesting to see how these are used going forward. Ukrainian corvette Hetman Ivan Vyhovsky has been launched in Turkey, and I've talked to you about this. So they're both now being tested in the Turkish waters in the Black Sea, I believe. So they'll be able to be given to the Ukrainians and used by the Ukrainians in war, rather than, I assumed they'd be made in a Turkish port outside of the Black Sea, and then there being a med unable to go into the Black Sea, and so they're kind of for after the war. But it turns out these will be available to be used for the war. So anyway, what's interesting here is that they have 50% more weapons systems than the serial ships of this project, according to Dmitry Platunchuk. In other words, they've been laden with extra weapons, one would assume ready for use by the Ukrainians, and weaponry that is useful to the Ukrainians. So I'm sure there'll be an awful lot of electronic warfare capabilities, drone capabilities, and so on and so forth. Actually, this ship has a lot of surprises in store, he added. I would be pretty scared about getting these in the Black Sea. They would just be target number 1 for the Russians, for sure. Okay, the first public photos of the German stationary anti-aircraft system Skynex. So this is a palletized version. It's not, I mean, you could put it on the back of a truck, but here's a stationary version in service with the armed forces of Ukraine. Don't know where that's being used, but it looks pretty useful. That's for taking out, so you'd assume that is around an airbase, something like that. Might not be, could be around a nuclear power plant, or I don't know, Houses of Parliament or something like that in Ukraine, but it looks a bit out in the open somewhat. So I'd assume it's probably next to an airbase, and that will be used for taking down drones, potentially cruise missiles as well, firing an awful lot of lead into the sky and acquiring targets, I presume with some decent radar capability. This is one of the rumors I was talking to you about earlier today. So some of our Ukrainian sources, says Max24, take it with a pinch of salt anyway, but these are rumors from rumors. Some of our Ukrainian sources hint that we are now attacking Russia, not only with ATACMS missiles and drones, but also with our Ukrainian missiles, and not only Neptune. So there there are rumors of further strikes into Russian territory, and also rumors that the Ukrainians are using missiles that aren't just Neptune missiles, that they have created other missiles as well. But, pinch of salt and all that, as mentioned. Right. Kiev and Warsaw have agreed to form and jointly train a new army brigade on Polish soil, betting the initiative could help recruit some of the scores of Ukrainian men living in Poland and other EU countries. So this is something Poland has suggested. Czechia has suggested as well. Really good news there. So Kiev and Warsaw have agreed to form and jointly train a new army brigade on Polish soil. The so-called Ukrainian Legion, a fresh initiative to boost Ukraine's military manpower more than 2 years into Russia's full-scale invasion, will be the first army formation to recruit Ukrainian volunteer fighters from abroad, including those who fled across the border to avoid being drafted to fight the war, and long-time Ukrainian residents of other countries. Formation of the Ukrainian Legion, whose troops will be sent to fight in Ukraine against Russia's invading forces following boot camp, is a key element of a bilateral security agreement inked on July the 8th between Zelensky and Tusk. Quote, the Ukrainian Legion will train in Poland and be equipped with the help of our partners. Every Ukrainian citizen who desires to join the Legion will be able to sign this contract with the armed forces of Ukraine. So good news, and obviously they need as many troops as they can possibly get. I don't know whether they'll be able to fill the ranks here, although there were claims that there is enough interest for this. They definitely need as many people to fight on the front lines as possible. Just seeing if they've got any numbers in terms of potential recruits, potential challenges, high quality training that would meet the requirements of modern warfare and our battlefield, both with fighters and commanders. Effectiveness of the Legion will also depend on the equipment they receive, the source of which is still unclear. Mazika doubts Poland's ability to fully equip a brigade with mechanized or motorized gear due to substantial supplies it has already sent to Ukraine. According to sources quoted by the Polish media outlet, local authorities are in talks with EU members about contributing funds to finance the training and equipment. It's believed that Poland's efforts to enhance defence cooperation with Germany could lead to Berlin joining in training and equipping Ukrainian Legion fighters. Just seeing if the Czech authorities are considering the possibility of creating a similar one. So I've mentioned that previously. Another challenge could arise when members of the privileged Ukrainian Legion interact with soldiers from regular units formed, trained and based in Ukraine. Mazika has suggested that rotating Legion members back to Poland might negatively affect the morale of other Ukrainian troops who haven't been rotated for months or in some cases years. So on and so forth. So, yeah, certainly some challenges, but I'd say that's really good news. Poland has trained already over 20,000 Ukrainian soldiers since the start of the war, which is obviously really useful for the Ukrainians, even if some of the training has apparently been not necessarily from Poland, but from various places where Ukrainian soldiers have been trained, has been not quite fit for purpose for the Ukrainians, given that the type of war they're fighting isn't always what NATO trainers have in mind. But yeah, it's going to be, I can't see anywhere here whether they are going to be able to draft enough for that. But I'm sure it's in the article somewhere. That's in the Kyiv Independent. The Kyiv Independent also reports that Egyptians have been recruited by Russia to fight in Kharkiv Oblast. Russia is known to have targeted men from countries such as Cuba, Kazakhstan, Somalia, Nepal to fight in its army. Well, now Egyptians have been recruited as well. I really want to know how many foreign fighters have been recruited to the Russian army. That'd be a really interesting stat, that one, wouldn't it? Right, moving on to geopolitics. We're going to start with... we're not going to start... oh, yes, we are going to start with this. So, just bizarre. So we know there's been this prisoner swap, and some people... So I talked to you about this yesterday in various videos, actually, over the last couple of days, that inside America, the prisoner swap will be met in two ways. So if you are anti-Biden and anti-Democrat, you'll be saying that this is a crap deal. And if you're pro-Democrat, you'll be saying this is a good deal. And if you're somewhere in the middle, you'll be looking at it on the merits of actually what occurred. And my presumption is that this was a good deal for the US. That seems to be what international analysts are saying. And so I'd go along with that. So someone like the Daily Telegraph, if they've got a pretty upbeat analysis of this, that's a right-wing UK news source that, if they're saying it's a pretty good deal for the US, then I'd imagine it probably is. Now, Trump is obviously unable to say that Biden or the Democrats have done anything decent. So this is the way he interprets it. But I just think this is handing, like, even if you are Republican and you're against anything that the Democrats do, like, the way you phrase this, the way you talk about it, like, matters. So all he's doing is giving grist to the Russian mill here by what he says. Just don't talk about it at all, or say, I think it could have been done better. If I'd been in charge, the deal would have been better. But just to talk about it in this way is problematic.
I'd like to congratulate Vladimir Putin for having made yet another great deal. Did you see the deal we made? I'd like to congratulate...
I just think that kind of rhetoric is not helpful at all. And completely unsurprising, of course. Now, in July, Russian oil exports experienced their largest decline of the year. The exports from major Western ports dropping to their lowest level in nearly 20 months. The most significant decrease was in supplies to China, which fell by over 1.4 million barrels a day. Now, I don't know if there is a seasonal aspect to this, so that it's always the case that the oil exports drop at this time of year because summer or something. I don't know. This reduction in Russian oil was partly offset by increased exports from Saudi Arabia and the United States. Total Russian oil exports by sea were the lowest in almost a year. The Baltic port shipments hitting their lowest since December 2022. So that's, I guess, good news for the West, for Ukraine, that Russia will be less able to make as much money from oil exports as previously. Berlin train services have been disrupted by vandalism, suspected vandalism. Yet another act of critical infrastructure sabotage joins a growing list across Europe this week. In this episode, arsonists set fires damaging cable systems needed for the operation of the Berlin S-Bahn network, significantly impacting all rail traffic in and out of the German capital. Time for NATO Article 4 consultations to be invoked, says Dr. Benjamin Schmidt. This is a growing issue across Europe. We have seen France and Germany on a number of occasions have its railway and infrastructure, travel infrastructure affected by potentially sabotage. I've talked to you previously about how I think arson is the single biggest threat to is a growing threat, and one we need to watch out for across the Western world. I think it's going to be very easy for Russian or terrorist entities to pay off people to set fire to stuff. It's just so easy. Like, previously, we've been worried about people creating bombs. Bombs are complex. You have to have the know-how, and you have to sit at home, make a bomb, and with the very real threat of having that bomb go off in your living room, right? Or you can just take some lighter fluid, a bit of cloth, and go and set fire to a bin or to a relay cabinet or to something, and you can cause a massive fire. In Poland, the biggest mall was burnt down, probably by the Russians. That is a really good return on investment for a very low risk. Here's $1,000 to go and burn something. There you go. If you successfully burn this down, we'll put $1,000 in your, through the dark web in Bitcoin or whatever it is. All right, jobs are good. I think fire is going to be such a threat going forward. Trump congratulates Putin for... that should have been earlier. So the Kiev Independent reported on that. At the Georgia rally on August 3rd, Trump congratulated Putin for his historic prisoner exchange arranged by Biden that freed 16 people wrongfully imprisoned in Russia, including Wall Street Journal Gerskovich. But yeah, not gone down well among many others. And I'm going to end on this because there's not all that much news pertaining to Ukraine just today. Jackson Hinkle is your American Russian shill, one of your main ones. He's more obvious than David Sachs and Elon Musk. But my goodness, to go down the route of now. So the most recent thing he did prior to this was saying the American Communist Party is starting up and how wonderful they are and blah, blah, blah. Like, what are you doing? Like, in the US, like, lauding the American Communist Party. I mean, you're being so obvious now. Long gone are the days where you're like, here's someone that's critical of NATO expansionism and, was on Russia's side, but is a bit nuanced and is now just, he's all in. He's all in. And like, yeah, no, I've gone to the Donbass. I've met with Russian soldiers in the Donbass. I'm now just saying how wonderful the American Communist Party is. And the next thing he's done is here. Jackson Hinkle says, King Jong-un. So the dictator of North Korea is on a rescue operation to save his countrymen impacted by severe flooding. What an incredible leader, he says, exclamation mark, as the man is helped down because he's not, he's about as good on his feet as I am, getting into a boat and, I don't know, going off to see people affected by flooding. Does that make him an incredible leader? I mean, it's the same guy that used an anti-aircraft gun to shoot his uncle on an airfield by way of execution. Just absolutely battered another human being with an anti-aircraft gun, because he's a dictator and that's what he does. So here he is, a PR opportunity in a boat. Well done, mate. Excellent. You are an incredible leader. As War Vehicle Tracker says, what an incredible leader. Ain't no effing way. So this is anyone that ever on our threads here, on the threads here, that says, you should listen to Jackson Hinkle more. Just play them this and say, really? Do I really have to take this guy seriously? Yes, I'm giving him oxygen now, but the oxygen I'm giving him is in telling the world that he is an absolute numpty of the highest order. And there you go. Anyway, that's enough from me. A very short one today. Please like, subscribe, and share. Really appreciate your supports. I'm off tomorrow for my holidays for 2 weeks. I am taking my laptop, so I will keep the content coming. It's going to be interesting. My day of travel, though, tomorrow, what I can do. If Roman from Australia didn't catch my live stream from yesterday, I did wish him a happy birthday. So Roman, happy birthday, mate, from the UK to Aussie. I hope you had a good one. Anyway, take care, y'all. I'll speak to you soon.